Hello everyone, it's time for the ReQuest. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my fantastic co-host, Austin, the Day Ghost.
What's up? For a second I thought you forgot me. You're like, my fantastic...
No, I just realized for a second that I was sounding really game show hosty, you know? Like I was ready for a panel of contestants or something.
And our first contestant...
Hey, where are you from? Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Answer the damn question.
Anyway, welcome. I hope everybody's doing well tonight on this fine Wednesday evening. Thanks for watching live. If you're doing that, appreciate you watching after the fact as well. Tonight, we are tackling an anime film from 2001. It's a classic. It's Millennium Actress, a movie that I had heard is one of the greats, but had never watched it, and it was requested by Doolittle on Patreon. Thanks a lot to him. We did this director's first movie a few months back and just adored it. It's definitely in the Hall of Fame for the ReQuest, and Austin and I actually have both been hoping that we'll get to see it in the theater this year, because I guess you missed it. You almost went.
Yeah, I was going to go the one day and I went, I'm not feeling great. I'm going to go tomorrow. I'm a little tired. And then I looked the next day and it was gone.
And it's playing sometime this month here. I need to look that up again, but I think I'm probably going to get to go. So we both really like Perfect Blue. We'll see how that compares to this. These are somewhat of companion pieces. They've got some thematic style ideas, if nothing else, in common. And there's kind of a yin-yang thing going on where one of them is a psychological thriller that is that uses the thin line between reality and fiction for a creepy effect, and this movie is kind of the more positive side of that, where it uses it for dramatic and epic effect. I would call this is nowhere in the same genre as that other film. I would put this more as there's some tragic stuff that happens, but it's more of like an epic romance kind of story, and a big adventure piece in a kind of off the beaten path, non-conventional sort of way.
Yeah, and initially I wondered if it was going to be in the same genre, but then it did not go that way.
And pretty quickly, I think you can kind of tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was mainly going into it. And then for maybe the first 2 minutes, maybe I was like, oh, am I right? Is it going to go into more of a horror place? Oh, okay, no.
Yeah, well, about 15 minutes in, I'm thinking this seems a lot brighter and a lot more, maybe optimistic or, lighter. And then about the middle of the movie, I started questioning that again. When you get the wraith lady with the spinning wheel, the ghost lady, and I start wondering, just how horror and creepy we're gonna go, and with everything that happens with the would-be boyfriend with the key and his getting thrown in prison and all of that, but it stays in more of that kind of adventure place.
Mm-hmm. No, it has. I know you probably didn't see it, but last year, The Northman, which was directed by the guy who did The Lighthouse and The Witch.
I keep meaning to watch that because you and Dan just wouldn't stop talking about it.
That is not a horror movie, but you can tell it was made by a guy who makes those, because every now and then it creeps in.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of like that.
Yeah, well, and that's got it's got the exact same creepy lady thing, except it's Bjork, which is why I thought of that.
So the director, again, Satoshi Kon, with the first movie, and again, these are not the same universe or anything, but with his first film, that was a thing he was assigned and had to make, and this was his idea in the first place. So it's kind of interesting that he made them companion pieces in that way. I think he just got really fascinated by the, again, blurring lines between reality and fiction thing and wanted to play around with that again. Really respect him for not just kind of doing the same story or the same even kind of film again. It's really cool when you can explore ideas, and a lot of the best writers do this, where you're exploring some of the same ideas, the things that you're really passionate about, but you keep finding new angles and new ideas to bring to the table, and you're not even saying the same thing every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a lot of writers have, specific ideas they're fascinated by, and then it's how you make it look fresh and new each time you do it.
Yeah. Do you think if you saw this in a vacuum, it would take you very long to realize it was the same director as Perfect Blue? Or would you go,
Uh,
or would you maybe even make some comparisons to it, but it wouldn't even occur to you that it was the same person?
that's a good question. I feel like I'd probably at least compare it to. I don't know if I would know offhand that it's the same guy,
Yeah, same here.
but at least like in terms of some of the animation, I was like, oh, this reminds me of Perfect Blue.
Yeah, but he does have that, and I don't want to say that he's a workman director, and of course it's also animation, so it's a little bit different. But he does have that. Uh, he's kind of walking that line impressively, I think, between having a very specific style and being versatile enough to be able to do something in any genre and kind of disappear. Like, it's sort of a blend of that. Like, this is so specifically stylized, and at the same time, the vibe I got from it, the atmosphere, was completely different from Perfect Blue.
Hmm. Well, it's like
And
the
that was all by
classic.
design.
It's like the classic workman director, right? Because that wasn't an insult, but kind of is now.
You're right. You're right. It didn't used to be.
Yeah.
It was impressive because being a workman director didn't mean that you didn't make art. It didn't mean that you didn't have style. It just meant that, I mean, in some ways it's more impressive, right? It means that
You could kind of
you
jump
can
around a little bit more.
fully own different styles.
Hmm.
And that's even harder, right? Because you're going
Yeah.
from piece to piece, and maybe you've never made a movie like this before. I mean,
Hmm.
certainly this guy hadn't.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think of guys like like Robert Wise or Richard Donner, who are both very talented directors, but like they could easily just go, okay, this is my next project, and then boom, they just do it.
I will say, knowing that this is his second film, you can see the progress in, and some of it might be this had more money behind it, but you can certainly see the progress in animation. Like, this is definitely a more refined look, and I don't want to say it feels more confident. Like, that other movie needs to be more dirty, more gritty, in the
Hmm.
first place. So if there are any, blemishes or imperfections, it only kind of helps to sell the material. But this seemed more ambitious with its visuals.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a lot bigger of a movie. Well, like you said, that one's like a dirtier kind of not sleazy, but like that kind of a feel.
Yeah, and more noirish in its look.
Yeah,
And like I said, this is
exactly.
more like an epic.
Hmm.
And this is looking at the great Japanese epics, because and we'll get into the synopsis here in a second, because it's all about an old woman telling her story in kind of the story of her life, as an unreliable narrator to some degree, where she's kind of blending the movies that she made as an actress with the events of her actual life, which is really what's the word I'm looking for? Creative.
Hmm. It reminded me of, and obviously this is based on a true story, but like the Rocket Man thing, where you take
Yeah.
songs that were not written by the man, but you kind of take that and you use it to like analyze and break down his life. And obviously we did that where it's entirely fictional. So you also build the fictional or like the material that you're drawing off of as well.
Yeah, and how impressive, that's a great comparison. And how impressive is it that it manages to use those movies in a real generic way without the whole piece feeling generic or even those sections feeling like, you know what movies you're going to, but they don't have the rights to them.
Hmm.
And this is Japan, which is way stricter about copyright than we are.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know
Like,
that.
you can't even name the names of other people's works in your works in a
Oh,
lot of things
really?
in Japan. Yeah, so like kind
Okay.
of shocking to see something that looks like Godzilla, for instance, like outside of anything that what is it, Toei?
Toho.
Yeah, Toho. Pardon me. Is putting up money for it.
Hmm. Yeah, no kidding.
And I think there's supposed to be like some is there maybe like Kurosawa in this movie? Like the problem is I don't know, Japanese film all that well, so I didn't know all the hallmarks very well that we're going to. Like the general styles I picked up on, but like the specific movies that they're looking at, I didn't know all of them.
Yeah, no, of course. And I'm sure a lot of that in terms of like, oh, well, it's looking specifically at this, went over my head. But Kurosawa is definitely one of them.
I'm looking at a little list here. Yeah, Kurosawa. So Throne of Blood,
Oh, I think
and
I've heard of that.
and then it says a Chambara, which means sword fighting story featuring Kurama Tengu, a monster story that borrows images from Godzilla and a science fiction story. So I would have thought like there's not any specific Japanese sci-fi that it's going to probably. I was just reading from Wikipedia there, but I was thinking, well, this is clearly 2001.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sure.
So like it's maybe not all specifically Japanese, but
Well, and there's definitely a lot of.
I had forgotten that entry there just said science fiction story. I thought each of them were a specific Japanese thing, but perhaps not.
But I mean, there's a lot of American influence in Japanese media too, and vice versa. It's like a cat chasing its tail.
That's what I've always said. Yeah, it's just a snake eating the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Especially in anime.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the last 20 years, like America cannot stop trying to make anime, which was Japan trying to make American, cartoons.
Mm-hmm. When you have stuff like people always say the Matrix is Ghost in the Shell, but then there's a lot of Blade Runner and Ghost of the Shell. So it's definitely like all kind of cycling.
So Austin, yeah, well, and how many comics just keep going back to Akira?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
We just can't get away from it. Austin, would you give us a quick breakdown of the story of this film? It's one of those movies that I think kind of feels more complex, plot-wise, story-wise, than it is.
Oh, see, I was going to say
it's ultimately kind of simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say the reverse. I feel like it's really simple to just go, okay, this is the plot, and then it's like the grander details that complicate it.
Okay, interesting. Well, it has that thing, right, where the details in some ways don't even really matter that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you really get in the weeds with it, we could start, spending all day long trying to decide what is actually happening and what isn't, and I don't think it wants us to do that. Like, I think it does a pretty good job communicating that it's kind of more about the broader idea. Like, it's a surreal film. Like there is a story here certainly, but when you start getting too far into the realism of it and letting yourself get real worked up, which I tend to do. I mean, I read into everything. When you and I would literalize everything. You know what I mean? Like I could really do that with this movie, and I'm hesitant to do that because I think it's doing a pretty good job of communicating that we have an unreliable narrator and that the visuals are very often not telling us what actually really happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually at a certain point in the movie wondered if you would have that because I remember that was one of your bigger issues, I think, with Perfect Blue, was how much of the ending was literal, if I remember correctly. It's been a while.
I think this communicates it a little better.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. Now, having said that, I don't mind coming out
like 20 minutes in, so
I don't mind coming out right away and saying I don't think I like this movie as well as Perfect Blue.
Mm-hmm.
As like an experience.
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I feel like I need time. I don't know.
Yeah. That's why I said I think so. I'm not 100% sure either. And I know I've said this repeatedly recently with stuff people have been picking. It's just the luck of the draw, folks. But this is another one of those movies where I feel like I really needed 2 viewings coming into this, and I just didn't have time for that.
Yeah, no, I definitely have that to an extent. But there were points in the movie where I was like, I think I like this better than Perfect Blue, and then other moments where I go, okay, no, I definitely like Perfect Blue more. But
and they're both movies where the ending could make or break it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I read that there were people that felt really betrayed by this ending.
Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating. Okay.
It all depends on what you latch onto.
Yeah.
You know, if the whole thing for you is a mystery about what a key opens, you're gonna feel like it's the J.J. Abrams mystery box thing.
Okay. And yeah,
You know?
fair enough. Fair enough.
And I could also see that ending feeling kind of, and we're gonna spoil everything, but I could see that ending feeling kind of cliche to people as far as what the message at the end of the day is.
Hmm. Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know,
mean,
like
maybe.
the journey is more important than the destination.
But I also feel in terms of like a romance like this, it's more, I don't know, like the reverse would be more cliche if they got together at the end.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
that's true too. Well, I didn't want them to get together, but I did think, and that's why I'm real on the fence right now, and I feel like we're feeling each other out on this movie because we haven't talked it at all. Really,
No, I've said one thing to Cap and it was so surface level.
you know, it absolutely was. Well, you just went, "Hey, look, Godzilla," and then after that, the only opinion that either of us shared was, "This movie is stunning, right? Like, it's really pretty."
Yeah, it's a very pretty movie.
That's all we said. But I did think 10 minutes before the movie ended that I needed to know what that key opened.
Okay, see, I never had that. I feel like 45 minutes in, I kind of got where it was going, and I was like, okay, the key doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right, but I want another viewing of it.
Well, and it's funny because in the very first scene where they introduce the key and he says it unlocks something very important, I went, it unlocks our love, and as a joke to myself, and then kind of,
Yeah, kind of. I'm glad that it never gets sappy about it.
no, yeah, no, exactly.
Nothing like that is ever spelled out. The most a message or a moral is spelled out at the end is when she says on her deathbed, I was, I realized that I enjoyed trying to find him
More than
more than
anything.
it maybe would have even mattered if I found him. And that resonated with me okay. And I didn't feel like it was too heavy handed. Because after all, she was like on her deathbed.
Mhm.
And it was maybe a realization to herself that she hadn't articulated yet to anybody.
There's a kind of realization of what the meaning of her life was. Yeah.
Yeah. That, like, if it wasn't for that guy, she wouldn't have had adventure. She wouldn't have made all those films. Like, it's the only reason she got into acting in the first place.
Hmm. Exactly.
So now that we've broken
yeah.
down the ending, why don't you tell us what happens in the film? We're doing everything backwards tonight.
Okay.
Just like the movie, it starts at the end.
Just like manga, we're going backwards. We're
That's absolutely right.
reading right to left.
Go ahead.
So this is a movie where two people, a comedic cameraman and a interviewer, go to talk to this famous actress after the studio that she worked in for what, like 70 years, I think they said the studio was around for. I'm sure she worked in it less than that, but
Yeah, well, remember, it was already operating because there was
Exactly.
the famous actress who gets jealous of her for coming in and stealing her thunder.
yeah, exactly. So this studio is closed down, demolished. So they're going to go interview this big famous actress, and she recites the story of her life searching for this man that she loved as a kid. But she's like, I don't know, a teenager, and they use that and her movies, as you can probably tell about what we've said, and she kind of infuses her roles in her career in how it relates to the story of her finding this guy and how that's kind of ultimately what her life's been about. And it's like a whole thing. That's why I said, like, I think it's very simple to sum up a plot, where it's like, it's obviously a lot thicker than that when you get into the weeds of it. But
It is and it isn't, though, because what I started realizing was that you had kind of a rinse and repeat thing happening on purpose with this. There's a device here, right, where we keep telling the same story over and over and over again with different trappings. So you think that you're getting involved in all of these individual, subsequential subplots, and then you realize that you're actually seeing the same episode happen constantly. There's a formula that happens through different movie genres where she finds the guy and then he runs off, and then she is being and he's being pursued, and she's helping him escape, and then she's trying to find him again, and then eventually it will accidentally run into him, but keeps having to chase after him again, and we just keep repeating that over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of cycles going on where she'll meet different characters and whatnot, and they'll come into the story.
And then I think part of the point of that is supposed to be that, like, I don't know, as optimistic a way as I've maybe ever seen this point driven home in a film, because this sounds like a really, like, negative, sad, tragic thing to say, but it's like, life is, like constant struggle, constant cycles. You're after things that you aren't able to necessarily achieve, and then at some point life is over, and you just have like cycle after cycle, and then at the end of it, the cycle continues with other people, with maybe somebody else, but like you do close your own loop at some point. But the reason that it feels optimistic at the end is because she realizes that she actually did live a full life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
That's why it's not sad. Because I feel like it's all about the attitude you tell the story with. Like, you could tell this story with exactly the same details and make me want to slip my wrist at the end of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where she's incredibly sad that she never got to live the life that she wanted, and boom, that's it. Okay, bye.
Yeah, where it's like she had
absolutely.
all this fame and wealth and prosperity, but at the end of the day, all she wanted was this guy, and more importantly, maybe, she never learned the answer to the mystery. She never knew what the key opened. She never figured that out, and now she's gonna die. She's gonna go to her grave having never had that. Like, you could easily tell that story that way. But but the attitude of it is the key doesn't matter, because if she hadn't been chasing that, she wouldn't have had a happy life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she would be the rich actress version from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good call. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll let you finish the synopsis if there was...
I mean, that was basically it, and then she dies.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some important larger details that we can be sure more or less are real, as opposed to the individual things that happen in each of the, I'm going to call them, movies. Like the fact that, and I thought this was an interesting reveal, that the guy directing the documentary or doing the interview with her used to work with her, and she doesn't realize it right away, and actually saved her at one point in the middle of an earthquake. Yeah, mm-hmm. that was an interesting dynamic, mm-hmm. and I liked that character a lot.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, early on I joked that like 10 minutes into the movie I was like, okay, I know what my synopsis for this movie will be, which is, it's the story of me interviewing Kurt Russell. And then the movie went completely far away from that, and I went, okay, it's not going to be about the fandom thing.
Oh yeah, there are a few points in this movie where you think you know what it's about, and again, I was just kind of surprised by how positive it is, just in general, how optimistic it is, because a lot of these things end up being really kind of bleak, where it's like the life of a Hollywood actress, in this case Japanese, but it's essentially the same thing, is not as glamorous as it looks. It's not as easy as it looks. A lot of people have everything and nothing all at the same time, and this was the other side of that, and I was really surprised by that. Like, it's almost anti-social commentary in its way.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of it like that, but yeah.
Because it's not trying to uncover anything. It's not trying to reveal anything about, like, the Hollywood system or the Japanese movie system. It's realistic in that all of that stuff is there and in the background, but the movie's not about it. It's a character piece. It's a character piece, or it's a I don't want to say morality play, maybe more like a fable or a parable or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like a folklore Hollywood epic.
Yeah, because it's Well, that's the trappings of it, but like
Mhm.
like it's almost a fairy tale or something, right?
Mhm.
Uh, but it isn't a cautionary tale in this case. This girl did everything right,
Yeah.
except for maybe retiring and not finding anything else to do. I mean, like she's kind of just been hanging out for 30 years.
Mhm.
She doesn't seem unhappy,
Yeah, I mean, if I
really.
have the money for it, I would be down to just hang out. She lives the John Carpenter life. She's played Xbox for 30 years.
She's got Skywalker Ranch. She's fine.
She's like, I get checks from all my old movies, and I get to sit around playing Xbox. I have a pretty happy life.
The jealous actress who ages out too quickly
Mhm.
is what I thought this movie was going to be.
Mhm. Well, that is like the most Perfect Blue thing in it, because
Yeah,
isn't that an aspect in Perfect Blue? It's been so long since we watched it.
I was hesitating to say too much about it because it's been so long, but I thought that was a big part of that movie.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But again, it's been so long since we watched it, and I've seen 8 billion movies since
Yeah,
then.
yeah. And only like 5% of them for this show probably, but it's the negative aspect of that career. The way that the human condition is not really conducive, and human psychology not really conducive to constantly being different people and to getting famous too quickly and all of those things.
Yeah, and the thing I loved about that actress is because whenever we do something like this, we always do oh, I'm getting older, like I'm mad at the younger generation. I don't think I've ever seen a movie where we stop and we have a moment where it's past that, and they're like, yeah, like you're older now too, and I look at it and I go, wasn't it silly that I had that anger towards you?
Yeah, well, that's another. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's another big part of the optimism of the piece. Is the worst people in the film both come out when they become more mature and really regretful and out themselves. There's
Mhm.
no big mystery in this movie to uncover deviousness or duplicity or something.
Yeah,
It
which is hard
happens
to.
twice. It happens with her, and then it happens with the guy who tortured her would-be boyfriend, and it turns out that all this time he's been dead. And he just comes out of nowhere and is like, "Here's this letter he wrote you, and all of and like what happened to him is my fault, and I'm sorry, and I like give myself to you." And I'm like, "Oh wow, the irredeemable characters are redeemable in this movie."
Mhm. When like just how relatable is that thing with the actress though? Just like in terms of just anything where you get like so in the weeds in
It's
life,
high
and
school.
exactly, and even just outside of high school, like it's so easy to just be like locked and like narrow-minded at a certain situation,
Yeah.
and be like maybe up in arms about it, and then time goes on, and you go, huh, wasn't it silly that I was so like just harped on this so much,
Yeah,
you
you
know?
completely lose your perspective. And it's
Exactly.
your whole world for a while.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, like you said, it's high school.
And that's what
Exactly.
happens. And I guess that's the place where if there's any quote unquote social commentary, it's there. But again, I feel like that's more there to facilitate a character who serves as the antithesis to our protagonist,
Mhm.
where she she realizes that a lot more of your life is going to be, I mean, if nothing unforeseen happens to you, is going to be past that prime where you're going to be a sought after, gorgeous actress. Like anybody that makes their living from needing to look a certain way and be young and perfect looking, looking like a CW pretty boy or a hot chick or something.
Mhm.
You've got to have a plan for not just what you're going to do after that. Hope that you build up enough money that you can retire after that, or have like a second career plan, or can act in other sorts of things or something, or like if you're a model, where are you going to go? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But you also have to get mentally prepared for it, because if that becomes too much of your identity, you're going to suddenly feel like you're a completely different person overnight.
Mhm.
And you're going to go, why aren't people treating me the way they used to? Oh, because I built my entire identity around I'm 24 and the most beautiful woman in the world.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Or like athletes, where all that stuff fades away over time.
I want to read a couple
So,
comments real quick.
yeah, go for it.
Josh, who requested this, thanks, Josh. Did he request the last one, or was he piggybacking off of somebody else?
I don't think he did, because the last thing he did was the ego and high evolutionary Thor stuff we did.
Oh,
But
that's
he
right.
told me that he, in his Japanese film studies class, he did a project on this movie, and I think that's why he picked it.
Okay, cool. It's kind of neat when sometimes the requesters are like talking to each other like this.
Well, it's like how we got Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness,
Oh, that's true. We've done all
all
three of
by
those on this show.
I don't think we've done the first one
No,
yet. I think it's
no,
on
that's not
there.
right. Just two in darkness. Yeah, yeah. Because I
But
never.
the first one's on there.
Is it?
I think so. I think I remember you telling me that somebody requested the
I've
first one.
never.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Let me look. Let me look.
Oh, Hot Soup requested Perfect Blue. There we go.
Oh, thanks, Hot Soup. That would explain why he's here. I don't see it on the list,
Oh, okay. Maybe
and
I
we
don't know
never
what I'm
did
thinking.
it. So if you're watching this right now and you requested Evil Dead and it's not on my list, let me know so that we make sure and take and take a look at that. Anyway, Josh's comment. I definitely think Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress are neat complementary pieces. They make the exact opposite stance on fandom and what being a lover of media could mean. Okay, what do you think this movie has to say about fandom? Because that's not really an angle I had been considering. I was thinking about it a lot more from the actual actress's perspective. Does he mean from the perspective of the two people that come to interview her?
That's what I think, because definitely I was thinking of it more so from her side on a first viewing. But there is definitely like none of this sparks without him coming to her with the key, and
That's
like a
right.
lot of that is out of his fandom for her and how much he geeks out about her and stuff, and it's presented in like a funnier way than Perfect Blue is, obviously. So like, there's definitely an aspect.
I love that personal connection he has with her, because it turns out that it's a real deep-seated respect, and that's why I wasn't thinking about it like a comment on fandom. And I'm not saying that Josh is wrong, particularly because I don't want him to second guess his whole term paper. But
Josh.
And I've only watched the movie the one time, so that might jump out at me on a second viewing. But I wasn't thinking about him like a quote-unquote fan as much, particularly by the second act, because it turns out that he actually knew her. And so, yes, he is that, but he loves her not just because of her, and not in a romantic way. I love that we don't even go there with any of that. Like I'm sure if he had some chance with her, like he would probably take it, but it's not about a romantic love. It's a real honest to God respect for another human being, who not only made great work, like he probably loves the stuff she makes. But
yeah, exactly. You can tell that he loves those movies. It's like it's like that fandom thing of like I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like the Zombieland, like, oh man, I just met Bill Murray. I get to act out Ghostbusters scenes. Like he's got an element of that.
That's true. Well, and I didn't think about this at all, because I kept thinking about the stories being told from her perspective as the way she was conceptualizing it, but it isn't that. It's the way the reviewer, or the interviewer, pardon me, and his cameraman are conceptualizing it. Because keep in mind, and this was a thing that took me out a little bit. I finally adjusted to it, but I couldn't decide how I felt about it for the first half hour, 45 minutes, and I was really confused at first, because I was like, wait, how are they there? Like,
see, that was the exact thing where I was like, I bet Cap was watching this and going like, I don't know about this.
Well, I did for a second. Well, okay, so can I tell you why though?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm not gonna get thrown under the bus for this.
I don't mean that as an insult.
15 minutes into the movie, I had to get up and go take care of my kids for something, and the moment that they show up in the in the past, during that first movie segment, when we don't really know we're in a movie segment yet. Mm-hmm. Was when I came back and started watching the movie half an hour later. So like, I thought I missed something massive. I was like, wait, how are they here? I don't think I would have been as caught off guard if I hadn't taken a break from it.
Why is he a samurai now?
But that whole thing was weird. No, when I say it was taking me out some, it was because with a thing like this, I'm always wondering when you have a visual representation, particularly with a framing device like this, of someone is telling the story. It's like the 300 thing, right? You've got somebody who is telling the story, and what you're looking at is from their perspective. There's maybe something of an unreliable narrator, and it's not exactly the same as it would look if we were just seeing the events played straight, right? And you're getting these two guys in the middle of it where they never directly can interact with her because they're not actually really there. She's telling the story until, and I thought this was really, by the way, sophisticated, until we get the big reveal that one of them actually was there. And then suddenly he's able to interact when he, goes and picks her up at the truck. I was like, wait, how is he, when she falls down, and is in bad shape, and I'm like, how is he doing this? Oh, it's what actually happened! Okay, that's cool. But the thing I got a little bit confused about is she's telling the story, and the two of them are sometimes interacting with each other like she's not there. And it made me go, okay, in the real world, while they're talking, or while she's telling the story, do they keep constantly interrupting her? And they're acting like they're actually there, and these things are affecting them physically, like gusts of wind would come at them, or something would be on fire, and they'd like put their hands up for the heat and all of that. And I was like, okay, what is actually really happening in the real world? And I quit asking those questions about halfway through it.
So there was like a point really early on when we first started doing that, where the camera guy's like, "Ah, man, like you're in my shot, like get out of the way," and I just kind of laughed. I was like, "But you're not filming
You're not
anything."
filming anything.
And then there's a moment later where he's like, "What the heck are we even filming right now?" And then that became even funnier later on when they're doing the samurai act thing, and he shows up as a samurai in the story, and then like a little bit later we back out and it's them on the couch and she's pretending to ride a horse and he's got a samurai helmet, because all I can imagine is like she's just acting out what's happening and he's like, what are we even filming right now?
It's absolutely a conceit, and
Yeah, of course.
they're maybe going a little too far with it. They're maybe cheating with it a bit, because if the two of them were never actually talking together, I could kind of see it from one of their perspectives or the other, where like this is how they're imagining it and they're there. But with the two of them actually interacting, I'm like, okay, now it looks like a shared delusion.
It's the Lion King 1.5. They're Timon and Pumbaa, so they're like they exist outside of the story.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have made that. I wouldn't have thought of that. But that's true. I haven't seen that forever. That's true. For some reason, at some point, I started giving it to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the type of story you can only do.
I don't mean
to
be hypocritical, because I've complained about this with other things, and I'm admitting I don't think it even 100% works really, but something about the presentation of it, with how confident it is, and with how much of a command of storytelling it has, I just feel like it's really deliberate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's just one of those things where they're playing to the strengths of the medium. Like it's something that can only work in film.
Yeah, that's where you have to decide if you're okay with this being as surreal of an experience as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Where sometimes what matters more is the flavor of it, how it's making you feel. Connor's favorite films, how it's making, the David Lynch of it all, how it's making you feel, what the ideas are, visually how it's accomplishing that. There's at least a more or less clear through. Mm-hmm. With like actual events that happen. Daniver says there's also a sense of false memory here, like she's conflating things because it's been so long, and I think that's deliberate. I actually thought that could have even gone a little farther, because I don't think she comes off as, I don't know. I don't want to say senile or confused, but like I think she's supposed to be more foggy about her past than she appears.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, it's hard to say because, like, obviously, she talks about how like seeing the key again kind of reawakened a lot of these memories, and I think the foggy aspect is just why it's like being related through like her career in film as opposed to just the straight up memories of what she was actually doing.
Yeah, and again, there's that question of, are we supposed to be thinking more about how she's relating it, or more how these guys are uh, adapting it in their imaginations?
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I guess so. And like, it kind of works for me by the end of the day.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
hard
no,
to explain
I think it all
why.
plays.
What's that?
I said I think it all plays for me, anyways.
And I don't think it would as much if the interviewer didn't have that personal connection with her.
Hmm. Yeah.
I,
That's fair.
you know what this movie was for me, Austin? I was going to say this at the beginning, and I forgot, but I'm glad that that it's come back to me. I mentioned 300 earlier. I kept thinking about Zack Snyder through this whole thing.
Oh no. This is
Because
Sucker Punch.
this is Sucker Punch if it made sense.
Oh, okay.
It
I've never seen
is.
Sucker Punch. So
Oh, you never seen that? It's
yeah.
it's Sucker Punch if there was any thought put behind it.
Hmm.
Because that movie is a bunch of kind of delusions, or not delusions, but like people imagining events in a much more heightened, adventurous sort of way. And the problem with it is it was all kind of like male fantasy that women were having, and in a time period where like they're putting themselves in these really scantily clad outfits, and they're putting themselves in video game cutscenes in a period of time before we had those. And so it just didn't make any sense. It was like they all just become Zack Snyder's imagination for some reason, and this was that movie if it made sense.
Well, all I've heard about Sucker Punch is that it's a movie that it's about sexualization of women while it's sexualizing women.
Yeah, exactly. It's using that as an excuse.
Hmm. But I've never seen it, and I don't have a ton of interest in seeing it.
Folks in the comments are, I don't want to say making fun of you about your glasses, but wanting you to talk about your glasses.
What do you mean? I've always worn glasses.
This is his first video with his new glasses. He looks really good, I think.
Yeah, no, I just got them on Sunday. Turns out my eyes suck.
I guess, yeah, that's unfortunate.
It is what it is. I don't think I noticed how bad they were until I got glasses, and then suddenly it was like, oh my god, like I've been living in a blurry nightmare.
Yeah, and you don't even realize it. It opens your whole world up.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What's really funny is all those videos where you would squint real hard to read comments.
That's true, yeah.
And
John, I was talking to John about it because we'd always play games, and I'd be
I
like,
just took it at your word that the letters were too small, but now I'm wondering about it. Are you nearsighted or farsighted?
that I don't know. I know I have astigmatism, so like my eyes are a little like they don't like blend together perfectly. And then outside of that, I'm not sure.
Do you have a singular prescription, or is it different on each side? I've been wearing glasses since I was 13 months old, so
the doctor handed me a thing, and I was like, "Thank
these are
you,
things I'm used to talking about."
people who are making my glasses. Here's the thing."
Well, anyway, I'm glad you got them.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I should have made a joke at the beginning where like some other guy showed up.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
well, yeah, it's the Superman Clark Kent thing.
Yeah, I should have made like a where'd the champion go joke, but I didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm. I know my mom saw me for the first time with them yesterday, and she was like, "Oh, Harry Potter," and I was like, "Come on, they're not even round.
Yeah.
At least be creative."
Way to name the only character that came to your brain that has glasses, Mom.
Yeah. Not even the same kind of glasses.
Well, anyway, Do you have? We'll go ahead and wrap this up. Do you have reservations about that ending, or did it work for you?
No, I thought the ending was perfect.
Oh wow,
No, I thought it was completely beautiful. I even teared up a little bit. So
wow.
I'm mates that can't actually get together. So I was like, oh, this movie is like everything I've been writing about since I started writing,
Oh,
and
interesting.
it hit me really hard, and it worked really well. And I don't know in my heart that I can say it's better than Evil Dead 2 or Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, but I think this might be my favorite movie we've watched. It was really good. But
Wow.
I don't know if I can put it over those two because I love them dearly.
And I don't know if I can put it above Perfect Blue.
And see, I don't know, but I think the ending is what cemented it as something I liked more. Uh,
Wow.
yeah. Because like I said, the entire movie I was going back and forth, and then the ending hit, and I was like, I mean, this is kind of a perfect movie.
Yeah, and clearly we're liking it for different things, and it's resonating with us in different ways, because I didn't actually care for that ending until I thought about it.
Hmm.
Like, the more I've thought about it and the more we've been discussing it, I
Well,
like
and there was a
I like what
point.
it's getting at, and I like how, again, positive it is, and that this woman realizes that she actually had a great life, and that I mean like maybe it takes that cliche and it makes it fresh again.
Mhm. Yeah, because there's a point in this movie where I'm like, okay, this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, and everything was right, and I was like, but that's just where the story has to go.
Yeah.
And I this is not an ego thing. I could never write anything near as good as this movie. But like, this is like the type of stuff I think about and write about a lot. So like, a lot of it was just like really sticking with me because of that.
Oh,
And I was like, well,
interesting.
clearly, like, this is where you go with that, and then you do this. And no, I thought it was like nigh perfect.
So you like destiny stories where the destiny doesn't work out?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that what you're
exactly.
saying? Where like there is both free will and destiny, but the thing that's supposed to happen doesn't always happen, or like what is it about that that appeals to you?
I don't know. I've just always been obsessed with the idea of soulmates that can't actually be together. And just the idea that you are that close with somebody, even if you can't romantically be with them. I don't know. I don't know why, but it's something I've like always had like a connection to.
Yeah, the part that resonated with me was kind of similar to in maybe the opposite way to what I got from Before Sunrise, which is the in this case the tragedy of the person that you find at random that you click with so well that seems perfect for you, and you're only able to spend like a few hours with them, and then you don't have any way to find them and you never see them again, and
Mhm.
you're always asking yourself like, what if we had been able to continue a relationship? What if I don't find anybody that gels as well as that person did? What are they doing right now? I'm never gonna know what their life is like, all of that. And something about it didn't hit me as hard with this as it did with that. I think because that was the opposite situation where those two people kind of like have the opportunity to spend more time together, and I got and like maybe they'll get together, and then of course they do eventually because they make sequels. But
Mhm.
with this, it was, I'm trying to articulate this. I don't think it hit home as hard for me because it was too much of a parable, because it was a love at first sight thing, which like never really resonates with me. So like she was into this guy because she was into this guy,
Mhm.
which like works fine for the story, but I think that's why it didn't grab me as hard as it grabbed you.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
she doesn't even know anything about him.
Well,
He's
she
an
does.
idea.
He's a painter. He's artistic, and she's
Oh,
artistic.
oh, okay. So I mean, I guess they have that in common.
Oh, also the most relatable part in this movie.
Yeah.
I'm glad I just remembered this. So she's dating the other artist guy, and he's like, being an artist is much like a director, like everyone involved, their colors.
Oh,
And
do
I
you like
found,
his pickup line?
yeah, and he goes, and I found the best color, and it's you
You.
or whatever. And I was like, ah, I hate you. And then the camera pans around, and the guy's like, oh. Like, did he seriously just say this pretentious line?
Yeah, that's what he said.
I was like,
Oh,
oh
I
my
meant to
God.
ask you, did you watch this with subtitles, or were you able to get the English dub?
So I rented it on YouTube, and it was subtitled.
Okay,
So
yeah. I didn't get the English dub either, and I rented it on Amazon. And just out of curiosity, I went looking to see if the English dub was around. Well, I had already rented it, and I was like, I guess I'm gonna watch it this way. It hadn't even occurred to me that Amazon didn't have the English dub, and I don't know how people are typically watching this. I think we watched Perfect Blue with the Japanese though.
I watched Perfect Blue dubbed.
I can't remember how I did it. But
Yeah.
anyway, lately I've been doing the English dubs more often for these big classic movies because I get the sense that that's how most of our audience has probably seen them. But I'm mentioning all of this because this sounds boring and not interesting to anybody. To tell you a thing that actually is very interesting, which is Tubi. I think it's Tubi.
Yeah, I call it Tubby,
What
but it's definitely
one of the
Tubi.
well, no, I just mean I think that's the service that I found that has this. It might be something else. I think it's that. Has this movie, and the English dub is supposed to be available October 4th. Today is October 4th, but it wasn't there yet.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I had that moment last night because the new Image Transformers book started today, and at like 2 in the morning, I was like, oh, I'm gonna read it, and then I looked it up on Amazon. And it was still under pre-order, and I was like, come on, technically it's the 4th. Let me read it.
Yeah, usually those services have a specific hour that they come up, and they're all different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So you had that waiting for Orville thing.
Yeah, exactly. But I read it when I got up before school, and it was very good, so I'm happy.
Oh, good. Well, anyway, any final thoughts about this?
Um,
You clearly liked it more than I did, and I feel like I really need a second viewing of it. But it's gorgeous, it's visually stunning. We didn't talk enough about the animation. I mean, it just knocks your socks off. It's one of the best looking animes I've ever seen.
yeah, it's one of the best looking just animated anything I've ever seen. It looks great.
That montage at the end, hurt my feelings. It was so good.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Good Lord. She just kept running and kept going into different movies, and I kept thinking I should be bored by this. It's gone on for so long, and it could have gone on another 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then Godzilla showed up, and I cheered. And then on the other side, the electric tanks from Godzilla showed up, and they were shooting lightning, and I was like, yes, we went even farther than I expected.
I loved the bookend with the space movie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It really drives home the odyssey of it all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it helps connect that it's, these are all just movies that she's in, where it opens with him just watching one of her movies.
Yeah. And then, some of the period pieces and things that she's in are, set close enough to where they all live. And then the further we go, the more kind of exotic it gets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And there's a part, I think it's in the middle. There's a part where she's traveling, and we're doing the same thing where we're going between movies.
Yeah.
But it starts with her, maybe on a horse or in a car. It's she's riding something, and then it transitions. Another vehicle pulls up, and she's in the vehicle that pulled up, and then it keeps going, and then she's on a bike. And all that's really cool, but there's a specific shot at the beginning of that where the background looks like a matte painting where none of the characters move in the background, and it looks fake. And I'm like, oh, because she's on a film set. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, and I meant to say, and I don't know anything about, painted art, Japanese or otherwise, but this whole thing apparently started as an homage to a particular artist. And there were a couple of places where it's pretty clearly like a straight up homage to a painting, and a painting or two that I felt like I recognized from something. I don't know if you had that, but like the art style would all of a sudden change.
Yeah, and that specific moment I was talking about, like, is really big with that, where like the art style is changing and like people look a little different.
Yeah.
And no, it's a beautiful looking movie.
There was one more thing I wanted to ask you about, and we got to talking about art, and now I'm struggling to remember what exactly it was. How did you feel about the notion that
I liked it. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thanks for watching, everybody. How did you feel about the notion that trying to find this man in the key almost literally keeps her young?
I mean, I would say that I liked it in terms of, it gave her life purpose. And we always talk about, especially when people retire, where
Yeah.
you have to find that thing to give your life purpose, like something to do to keep your mind on, because if you don't, that's when you get old and die.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked it for that reason.
I loved the kind of mirror, the kind of parallel between her and the jealous actress with that, because at first I was thinking, I mean, I had the same thing I did with Perfect Blue. I don't know if you did, where about halfway through I was going, okay, is there some kind of a mystical component to this? Especially with like the spinning wheel ghost and all of that. Which I'm assuming was probably from some other movie she was in.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
But part of what made me wonder about that is, well, first of all, timelines of some of the movies, right? Because initially, like, I think the second movie we're in, it's like, okay, we're in the mid-19th century.
Mm-hmm.
And then, at that point in the movie, I don't know how literal to take anything yet. So I'm like, okay, is she immortal? Did she somehow get like keep her youth and she's like 100-something years old? But we've been told she's 70, so no, it can't be that. So like I started figuring it out already pretty early, but I think it. But what I like about it is I think it really drives home that idea that she is not aging as quickly as the. It's not a supernatural thing. It's that the other actress isn't aging naturally. She's actually aging too fast because she's too stressed by the rigors of the job and trying to keep up appearances, and probably fear of getting old drives her old.
And
then
she's too deep into all of that.
And then a woman that none of this is phasing while she's getting all of the acclaim is staying young through it. And that just makes it worse for her. So I loved all of that.
Yeah.
But I questioned it at first. I was like, how is she staying, this young looking this long? And then you know what really made it work for me?
What's that?
Where I really bought it was she is gradually aging in the animation through the movie, and I didn't pick up on it.
That was something I wanted to bring up.
It's so cool.
It looks
when
so good.
They do a quick flashback later when the first time she meets the man with the key, and I'm like, oh crap, she looks like she's 15 years old in this scene. And I didn't even realize, because you're dealing with stylistic animation, so a girl that looks that young isn't necessarily supposed to be that young. Like, she could be 25 the whole movie, but they just drew her to look kind of young, right? But no, she is actually 15 in that scene. And then when she is 30, 35, 40, you might say she kind of looks like she's in her 20s, but she's aged, she's older.
Visibly older, absolutely.
Yeah, visibly older. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. Before you figured out that, she wasn't alive in the like samurai times, you're like, oh man, she's a time traveler. When her heart beats 88 beats per minute, she goes back in time.
Well, I thought the interviewer and his cameraman were time travelers for a hot second.
Yeah. When they shoot at 88 frames per second, they go back in time.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. And then they had the two railroad, but then he went back in time and he busted out a rail, so now it's the lone railroad.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a part where they have toxic waste and they spill it on a lizard and they go back to the future and it's Godzilla.
I love how jarring the anachronisms are real early on, where you're like, why are all these people attacking her on horses?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the 50s!
That's exactly how I think of the 50s. They're like, it's a woman. Attack.
And all on horses? It's like, yes,
Yeah.
in Japan.
Yeah.
So
of course,
Austin,
Japan.
the Japanese are always still riding around on horses. They don't have cars yet.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna get cars in like 10 years.
Or they make cars for us, but they're still on horses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I think, because that's what Canada's like.
I'm actually kind of surprised that that you were taken in as much more with this movie than I was.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure how you'd come down on it.
Yeah, no, I adored this movie. I thought it was really good. I know John texted me like right before you hit start, and he was like, "On Letterboxd, you gave an anime 4.5 out of 5 stars. Who the hell are you?"
Yeah, do you feel like you're warming up more to the medium now, or is it so far just this director?
I don't, because there's obviously, like as a kid I watched Spirited Away and I liked that a lot, and I need to go and watch more Studio
the
Ghibli
Ghibli stuff, yeah.
Yeah, or Ghibli, not Ghibli.
However the hell you're supposed to pronounce it, I don't know.
So I feel like
I'm right, but I don't care.
I think I just need to watch the right things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and another request that I got years ago before you were on this program, Austin, I would really recommend going and looking at Nausicaa.
Oh, okay.
I adored that. And if you listen to the late '80s dub, it's got Patrick Stewart.
Oh, there you go.
It's pretty cool. And some other major actors that are not coming to me in the moment, but I do remember that he's in
Stewart.
it. Yeah. Well, they're not in Star Trek, so I don't care.
Oh, okay, I see.
I got through this whole review without bringing up Star Trek until just now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm proud of myself.
Mm-hmm. You should be.
This movie was great. Walking into this, I didn't know if I would say Hall of Fame. Talking about it with you, yeah, this is definitely a Hall of Fame movie.
Not for me. I think it's just short of that for me.
He's got one movie on that shelf.
Yeah.
Everybody, thanks so much for watching and listening. We sure appreciate you. We're going to be back again next Wednesday night for another ReQuest, and we're actually sticking in the medium. We've got to do another anime film next week. Jojira asked for a movie called Lupin 3 the First.
Well, I hope it's not the third in a Lupin series.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but everything about that sounds like there's a prerequisite we're not going to have again. It's going to be...
1 step forward and 2 steps back for me in anime.
It's going to be Evangelion all over again, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
But that's where... I don't know what that is. I don't know what it's from or anything. We like to go in as blind as we can, so we'll find out soon.
And I just need to keep playing up my disdain for anime.
I don't know how much longer you're going to be able to do it. If you like next week's, you're going to have a real tough time with that.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But it does suggest that you're not letting your bias get to you too much.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're letting yourself enjoy the things that are...
Yeah, I mean, I play it up, but it's not like I go and look at anime and I'm like, oh, I don't like this. It's just not something I grew up with, so...
Sure.
Yeah. But to make up for it, I'm going to go and watch Oppenheimer like 8 times.
When are we going to finally do the blind commentary on live-action Death Note?
Oh my god, we have to. That movie's brilliant.
Oh, this would be the right month for it, too.
That is true. It's true.
I don't know if we'll have time to throw in another Halloween thing, but
yeah,
even if it's right after...
Yeah, we can figure something out.
We should sneak it. It's blind. We should sneak it in somewhere.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm really excited for you to watch the live-action Death Note.
Because I've been going back to that show a little bit with Jason, so it's fresher in my mind right now.
Mm-hmm. Unless, because I don't know when Godzilla and Kong comes out. If it's early enough in the year, we could always save it for that, because it's the same director. But we can do it whatever.
Folks, Austin and I are going to be right back in about 15 or 20 minutes if you're watching live right now. So, like the guy said at the end of Back to the Future, don't nobody go nowhere. If you are so inclined to keep hanging out with us, we're going to do the third part in our impromptu history of superhero movies and BS our way through another hour of superhero movie history. So look forward to that. And if you would like to make a request, you can go to patreon.com/geekvolution. The $15 tier makes that possible. All you have to do is sign up for 1 month. We appreciate everybody that sticks around longer than that to stay in the rotation, but you don't have to. As soon as you sign up and you roll over for 30 days, your request goes in the list, and it's about a 4.5 month wait right now. You can ask for a movie, you can ask for a comic arc, or you can ask for a pilot of a TV show, and if it's kind of mature, then Austin and I will cover it, and if it's not and Jason can see it, he and I will do it on the pilot show, which is a new weekly series that we just started last week, and thanks to everybody that has checked that out so far. We've done the first episode of TNG of Star Trek: The Next Generation. We've done House, and next week we're doing Animorphs.
Yeah, and I just watched your House video right before I watched this movie today.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, I want to watch the show again.
And we did that on your recommendation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gave you like a huge list of things, and I think I was like the top one, and you're like, I'm doing that, I guess.
Yeah. It made sense. It was real off the beaten path, and Jason and I neither of us had seen it. So,
yeah, exactly.
All right, everybody, we'll see you again real soon, and some of you will see real soon. Get up, go take a break, go to the bathroom, drink some water, come back.
Go play outside.
Yeah, play outside. Don't play in the street though. And we'll see you in just a little bit. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin, the Day Ghost.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
I just did your thing. I'm sorry.
You stole it. That's copyrighted. You can't have that. Registered trademark. I'm going to start putting an R with a circle next to it every time I do that.
I'm going to start doing the double. It's like Kirk's double punch.
That's not fair. That's too much. That's overkill. Anyway, see you later, folks. Bye, buddy.
Bye, guys.